It's the first Midweek Madness episode in a while, and having produced Sunday's episode on long exposures, I thought I'd share some of the images that didn't quite go to plan. So without further ado, let's jump straight into Lightroom. And this first image was supposed to be the centerpiece to this trip out. It was one of the reasons I decided to go to this location. You've got these stairs here which separate the two beaches. As you can see over here on the left, the tide has come in and it's creating this bit of a yin and a yang between the two beaches. Of course, you've got the concrete wall acts as a groin, as a sea defence leading out into the shot, and of course that protects the town from the elements on proper stormy days. Looks a good image to begin with, but the moment I loaded this up in Lightroom, I knew I'd made a mistake. I've basically set the tripod up. I've not thought about placement. I've just taken the shot. Nice 15-second long exposure. It's given us this milky smoothness to the water. Now, I don't mind that. I often do like taking those types of shot. Even here in the background, you've just got little bits of motion in the waves, so it's not completely milky smooth. But when I've set up the tripod, I've taken the shot. I've not reviewed it properly, and as you can see here, we've got this post here, and had I set things up properly, it's just a case of moving the tripod millimeters left or right, well, to the left in this case, making sure that the composition is as perfect as possible. I've not done that here, and for me, it just stands out too much as too much error, and it's annoying because for this type of shot, I've seen it on Instagram, you need a high tide. That's perfect, even if it's a high tide and the high tide isn't high enough. Of course, you're not going to get the water coming this far. It's not going to give you this effect. I had one chance and I've messed it up. I'm so frustrating because Lightroom is a great tool for editing images, but it's not a miracle worker. Luckily, later on, I've come across this scene, another set of stairs. This time the tide's gone out a little bit further, so of course you've got the shingle, the pebbles on the beach itself visible this time. It's a little bit better. I say it is a little bit better. It's still not perfect. You've got a little bit of nice surf down here. This one's been taken with a 6-second shutter speed. So again, you can see how a 6-second shutter speed, when it's a windy day and the waves are going fast enough, that you can slow it down well enough with a 6-second timer to get that effect that you're really after. But as you can see here from this post, I've not set up this shot properly with the tripod. I've not thought about the start to end process. All I've thought about is grabbing the shot, grabbing what I want here, and not thought about it as a whole, which is of course something we've got to do with any image. Now, we don't want to make it too dark. We want to keep it nice and light. Maybe darken the shadows up a bit like that. But let's bring up highlights. Love how it's a bit murky. Let's put that shadows a little bit more. Let's drop the contrast and bring up the texture, because I love the detail in the pebbles here on the beach. It's not perfect, but it's probably the best shot that I've got of this scene, so here it is now. The second image that I want to share with you today, and I've done it again. I've plumped the tripod down, I've focused on taking the shot, I've not thought about that start to end process, and yeah. It was about, what I wanted to go for here was, I love how the stairs down, they just disappear, they get surrounded by the pebbles, and of course you've got the long exposure of the sea, 6-second timer again, out in the background. I thought, look, we can play with the highlights, set a nice preset, darken the image up a little bit. But looking at the image as a whole, you've got this post here on the left which meets the horizon line. You've got this post here on the right, sorry. You've got this post here on the left which doesn't meet the horizon slightly. You've got the path down here which isn't straight. Now you've got the benefit in Lightroom to transform. I could I can turn the shot around. Let me show you. Let me show you the final edit here on Lightroom. This is kind of what I went for, where I've had to just play around with the transform section. But it comes back to what I was saying about how Lightroom's not a miracle worker. You can edit images, but if the image isn't right, if the image is wrong, this is what you end up with. Here's the final image to share now. We're moving location now because I want to share an image from my portfolio that I took last year on the Isle of Wight. Now I absolutely love this minimalistic scene of this boat out here in the bay. You've got this lovely sunrise light illuminating it. Now, long exposures are brilliant. They're a great way to get creative. They're a great way to get artsy, but there's so many elements that you need to think of before you set that shutter speed. And thankfully, I corrected myself here. I got this shot, but it could have gone disastrously wrong because, of course, when you're dealing with objects on the sea, you've got to take into account there's going to be motion. There's going to be potential motion with a boat. It's going to be bobbing on that sea. So if you go for a really long shutter speed, there's a chance that that movement is going to be picked up. Something a bit like this. As you can see, this shot got taken at 1/4 of a second, so it's not even very slow. But in the time it took for this shot to be taken, the boat's bobbed around so much, it's just blurred out and the image is wasted. Thankfully, in this case, I captured the error on the live view after taking it, and I was able to make some corrections, and I ended up with this. But it's just another factor, and I'll cover it more in a future long exposure episode. But always remember that what you're shooting on the sea, especially, if there's motion, you need to adjust for that, maybe even focus stack. The final shot, and perhaps one of my favourites that I took when I was at this location. With that in mind, what's it doing here in this video? Well, I'm not a fan of shooting people. I'm a bit of an introvert, and I saw this scene and I just thought, I've got to capture it. And what helped was this lady with this dog walker came into the scene. She was walking along here, had an ND filter, and I've got to take the ND filter off. Got to capture her walking into the scene. It'll add scale, it'll add depth, especially the red in all the blue and the green. Now, ideally, what I wanted was, as you can see, she falls on that left vertical. She's walking out of the scene, whereas had I captured her when she was on this right vertical, she'd have been walking into the scene. We'd have had the pathway as a leading line towards her. We'd have had this timber as a leading line towards her, and it's just a bit lacking that she's just in that wrong place. And because, of course, it's that human element, it's a moving subject. Once she'd gone from the scene, that was it. The moment was gone. It was wasted. Like I say, it doesn't stop me from loving the image, but it's just something I wasn't able to capture as and when I wanted it. Now, this scene, I've played around with it already a little bit, and it really does have the painterly look to it. It's kind of a little bit darker. Let's see, do we want to get rid of the saturation, or do we really want to bring out the colour? One thing I've thought about doing even is let's get rid of the saturation for all but the red. And as you can see here, we end up with almost this, is it a colour pop? In fact, I don't usually play around with things like that. Let's even add back in the blue of the sea, just a little bit of detail there, but it just makes that one person stand out in the shot. But this is definitely my favourite of the messed up scenes, and it's just proof that you just need to, it's all about timing, it's all about ensuring that you get set up correctly for your shots. So that's all for this week. A couple of images that I picked apart, but still love them. Catch me on Sunday for day 2 of my annual leave, where I go out and compare my current camera with my old. So don't miss that. Sunday, 10 o'clock in the morning. But for now, you have a great week. Take care. See you soon. Bye for now.